Kick off summer with Memorial Day savings at Lowe's. Right now, get 5 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. Plus, get up to 40% off select major appliances and save an extra $50 on every $500 you spend on select major appliances $396 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/28. Mulch offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy on Friday has said that the Russia war in Ukraine was moving towards ending this week if only that the Russian President Vladimir Putin wasn't afraid of coming to Ankara, the Turkey capital, on Thursday to have face-to-face peace deal talks with him in line with his own request for direct peace talks, which Zelenskyy said made him to travel to Turkey in person, but it was a surprise. The Kremlin leader, President Vladimir Putin, instead sent a very low-level government officials to the Russia president proposed dialogue meeting in Ankara, although Russia and Ukraine have been wrestling for months over the logistics of peace talks with hopes of achieving such in the proposed Ankara peace talks. But days before D-Day, President Donald Trump of the United States, US, had said that he sees no movement of Putin coming to Ankara until he and Putin get together, and according to President Zelenskyy, it was President Trump who told him publicly to immediately accept the Kremlin leader's proposal of direct talks. President Donald Trump, who since on Friday had left the Middle East back home to meet his new grandson after his daughter, Tiffany Trump, announced she gave birth to her first child on Thursday, said he will meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin as soon as we can set it up to discuss Ukraine-Russia peace talks. According to Zelenskyy, I addressed the European Political Community Summit. This week, we had a real chance to move toward ending the war. If only Putin hadn't been afraid to come to Turkey. I was there ready for a direct meeting with him to resolve all key issues. He didn't agree to anything. I spoke with President Donald Trump together with President Macron, Federal Chancellor Merz, Prime Ministers Starmer and Tusk. We discussed the meeting in Istanbul. Ukraine is ready to take the fastest possible steps to bring real peace, and it is important that the world holds a strong stance. Our position: if the Russians reject a full and unconditional ceasefire and an end to killings, tough sanctions must follow. Pressure on Russia must be maintained until Russia is ready to end the war. Thank you to everyone in the world who is helping. United Kingdom, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said, if Russia is unwilling to come to the negotiating table, Putin must pay the price. Speaking to President Donald Trump, we are closely aligning our response to Russia's unacceptable position. While ending his Middle East tour on Friday, President Trump said, I would actually leave here and go meet Putin. I do want to see my beautiful grandson. It would be recalled that Ukraine and Russia have not held any direct talks since March 2022, shortly after Putin sent tanks over the border, beginning the first major land war in Europe since World War II. But, according to Reuters, hopes of a major breakthrough appear unlikely, with US President Donald Trump declaring there wasn't likely to be any progress in the peace talks until he meets with his Russian counterpart. Nothing's going to happen until Putin and I meet, President Trump declared.
I know nothing about a delegation. I haven't even checked. Look, nothing's going to happen until Putin and I get together, okay? And obviously he wasn't going to go. He was going to go, but he thought I was going to go. He wasn't going if I wasn't there. And I don't believe anything's going to happen, whether you like it or not, until he and I get together. But we're going to have to get it solved because too many people are dying. Thank you. You're going to land right now. Thank you. Now it's time to go back home. My daughter had a baby. I'm going to go back home and see that little baby. And then we get back to a lot of work. We'll see what happens with Russia and Ukraine.
When do you think you'll meet President?
As soon as we can set it up. I would actually leave here and go. I do want to see my beautiful grandson, it's a son.
It looks more like
Thanks so much, dear friend. Thank you so much, Eddie, Prime Minister Ramar. Thank you, and thank you, Albania, for hosting us today. Not just in a beautiful country, but in a country that believes in Europe and stands for its future. Dear friends, thank you all for your support, and I appreciate that we share the same understanding this war Russia against Ukraine must be ended as soon as possible and in a just way. Ukraine needs peace. Peace in Europe depends on whether Ukraine will get it. All of you know that this week we had a real chance to take important steps toward ending this war, if only Putin had not been afraid to come to Turkey. I was in Ankara yesterday, and thanks for participation and hosting us, President Erdogan. And I was ready for a direct meeting with Putin, whether in Ankara or in Istanbul, and not just for a meeting, but to resolve all the important issues to my mind. But he didn't agree to anything, Putin. And you can also see that the Russian delegation that came to Istanbul is of a very low level. None of them are people who actually make decisions in Russia. Still, I send our team to Istanbul, led by Ukraine's Minister of Defense, at least to see if those Russians can actually decide anything. Our number one priority is a full, unconditional and honest ceasefire. This must happen immediately to stop the killing and create a solid basis for diplomacy, first of all. And if the Russian representatives in Istanbul today cannot even agree to that, to ceasefire, to this clearly necessary first step, then it will be 100% clear that Putin continues to undermine diplomacy. If that's not the case, there must be at least some result today, starting with a ceasefire. The Ukrainian delegation has a mandate to make decisions. As we saw yesterday, Russia sent almost the same people it sent in 2022. This shows that Russia has not changed its basic approach. They make many statements, many threats, but solve nothing. They are doing everything they can to turn this Istanbul meeting into a staged, empty process, just like the ones in 2022. It's not us or Western leaders who are disrupting the negotiation, as the Russians have been claiming for years. It's Russians who send empty heads to the talks. And that's what destroys the meaning of diplomacy. So if it turns out that the Russian delegation really is just theatrical and can't deliver any results today, the world must respond. There needs to be a strong reaction, including sanctions against Russia's energy sector and banks. Pressure must continue to rise until real progress is made. Ukraine is ready to take all realistic steps to end this war. I call on Putin to give his delegation real authority, and we need a full stop to the killing, long enough to give diplomacy a real chance. Secondly, we must build at least a minimum level of trust in the negotiation process. This can be done by releasing prisoners of war, returning Ukrainian children taken by Russia, and releasing civilian hostages currently held by the Russian side. Third, we need to clearly define which issues must be handled at the leadership level, not below. And we all know who makes the real decisions in Russia. Fourth, together with our leaders and together with the countries who are here with us today, we have begun to create a new security architecture for Ukraine and all of Europe. I thank everyone who is on board. Now it's time to move to very practical steps. And fifth, the United States. President Trump wants to end this war. We need to keep working closely with President and stay as coordinated as possible. Long-term U.S. support is also essential. An American backstop is needed. It's important that we all work together on every level to make that happen. And of course, I will keep you informed throughout the day about what is happening in Istanbul and whether there is any chance the Russian delegation will take real steps to stop the killing and bring the war to an end. Thank you, Eddie, again for the invitation.
Osazuwa Radio, bringing you the news in a more digital way.